Chubb arriving at First Energy Stadium, ready to go. He better be. The man of the hour, quarterback Nick Mullens, reporting for work, his first start for the Browns. Both Case Keenum, Baker Mayfield out tonight. Denzel Ward looks ready to go. A big game from the defense will be needed against the Las Vegas Raiders. Kickoff about an hour away. John Johnson off the COVID list. He's ready to help the back end of that defense as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sports4CLE. I'm Dave Bacon. About an hour from kickoff as the Browns getting ready for a game they need if they're going to keep those playoff hopes alive in the AFC. Harrison Bryant and Anthony Schwartz both active. Kevin Stefanski, a no-go for the game tonight. Mike Prefer will be the head coach. It will be Alex Van Pelt calling the plays, and Kelly Bronson, the running back coach for this game against the Las Vegas Raiders. Let's welcome in the D-man, Dennis Manoloff from WTAM 1100 and AM News Talk Radio. And D-man, the Browns do get Wyatt Teller, Tack McKinley, and John Johnson back. Those are three guys that are important. Still a ton of starters unable to go against the Raiders tonight at First Energy Stadium.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to keep up with all the movement. And you know what? Just before we came on the air, I was looking at Raiders inactives, including Raiders inactives that were from today, essentially. And Nate Hobbs, the rookie cornerback, is on the health and protocols list, so he's out. He's been really good in the slot for them. They were already without Trayvon Mullen, the cornerback, because he aggravated a toe injury. And they also lost linebacker Will Compton. So the Raiders are not exactly the picture of health, and we know Darren Waller's out. Derek Carr's favorite target, of course, Henry Ruggs, with all his legal issues, he's been gone. So the Raiders are, I wouldn't say as hit hard as the Browns, but they're certainly missing pieces.
Yeah, without question. So the Browns, again, without their first two quarterbacks. So it is Nick Mullens, a guy that the Browns signed to the practice squad as the number 3 quarterback, who will get the start tonight in a game the Browns desperately need for their playoff hopes. So the question is, who is Nick Mullens, other than the Browns starting quarterback against the Raiders tonight in a game that's important for their playoff hopes? Mullens has been on the Browns practice squad all season. He is in his 4th year out of Southern Mississippi. Mullens broke several Southern Miss records held by Hall of Famer Brett Favre. The Browns signed him as their number 3 quarterback this offseason because he has some experience in their style of offense. Mullens has played in 19 NFL games, starting 16 of them, running Kyle Shanahan's offense for the San Francisco 49ers from 2018 to 2020. He's completed almost 65% of his 600 career passes that he's attempted for over 4,700 yards and 25 touchdowns. That's not bad. He's also thrown 22 interceptions. That's not good. The 49ers record in his starts was 5-11. He's thrown for over 300 yards 3 times in his career, over 400 yards once. Scouting report on him, he gets from play action to ready to throw very quickly. That's really good for the Browns. Also, he tries to fit throws into tight windows that he can't fit them into. Let's hope the Browns have worked on that with him. If Mullens can find a way to lead the Browns to a victory in a critical game, he'll go down in Cleveland sports lore with Ryan Merritt, the lefty who started a critical playoff game for the Indians back in 2016. So, D-Man, there you have it. Nick Mullens, a huge game for the Browns. And again, if this is your 3rd quarterback, it's a pretty decent guy to have as the number 3 guy who you had on your practice squad.
That's a fantastic point, Dave. You just said it. If you're going to have to go to a number 3, I can think of worse. Let's put it that way. And Nick Mullens does have a resume in the NFL. He's made starts. I remember when he came on the scene in 2018, that first game was interesting because he threw the ball well, but he didn't get necessarily a good total QBR, 1 to 100 grade. But of those 8 games that he played in 2018, he had total QBRs of 50 or more, I think, in 6 of them. So he was respectable in 18. And you know what? I mean, he's got, I would think he has a nothing to lose attitude here. I mean, it's easy for us to say because maybe he's playing for a job somewhere else or he wants to really impress tonight. But you would think that his main job is to make sure that the ball gets into Nick Chubb's hands correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. Have Nick Chubb come back tired is what you're looking for. All right, so again, Mullens fits into the Browns system. He talked about that as well as this Browns offense.
I think it's just a matter of how you play the position, know where to go with the football, how to operate the offense, how to stay ahead of the sticks. And that's when the Browns offense is at its best, when we're running the ball, distributing the ball, stay ahead of the sticks. And that's our plan, and that's what I'm excited to execute. It's important to just find the right things to focus on. And for me, that's just knowing my assignment, knowing my reads, knowing my assignment, what to do on each play and where to distribute the ball. And if I do that, we work collectively. That's how the Browns are going to be successful. So it's really just finding the right things to focus on and focus on the things that are going to help us win the game.
And again, D-Man, you alluded to it. He has started a bunch of games in 2018. Then again, last year, 8 more starts when the 49ers were kind of decimated. But again, he's had an entire season in this Brown system, and they talked about how they work with him on kind of running the game script with the coaching staff, aside from what they're doing with the other 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's going to be really a fascinating game, Dave, for so many reasons. One of the highest reasons is how is Nick Mullens going to respond? What is he going to be asked to do? The most incredible thing would be if Alex Van Pelt, with the endorsement of Kevin Stefanski before the game started, had him slinging the ball around the yard just to throw the Raiders off. But as we said, I mean, they're going to have to run the ball to be effective today. I think they've got to get whoever's at tight end has to be involved. We know David Njoku available. He's a guy that can make a difference. They need to get their tight ends involved, and the tight ends in the running game, the short passes, the dinks and dunks, take some pressure off the O-line because we know that the Raiders D-line can rush the passer. So you would think they would want to get the ball out of Mullens' hands quickly, and we'll see how it goes. But all I can say about this, Dave, is I cannot believe the gifts that the Baltimore Ravens have given the Cleveland Browns and the other 2 teams besides them in the AFC North, the Steelers and the Bengals. We wouldn't be excited about this game if it were not for the great John Harbaugh and his obsession with going for 2.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, the whole AFC North and the way the playoffs shake out. Browns win today. They are in first place in the AFC North. Little bit of deja vu for Nick Mullens as well. His first start ever, 2018, against the Raiders. And he went out and played really well against the Raiders, kind of introduced himself to the NFL, was perfect on the first drive, and they scored, and they really never looked back. And this is video from that first game against the Raiders where Nick Mullens kind of tore him apart for the 49ers.
Yeah. And honestly, I forgot it was against the Raiders. I knew he looked good, and then when I did check it, his total QBR wasn't great, but he did look good. He looked like he knew what he was doing, and I remember a lot of people were talking about Nick Mullens that night.
Yeah, and the other thing is the Raiders as a team this year have had troubles with the tight end and running the football, the 2 things that the Browns can exploit, run the football and also, throw to the tight end.
Absolutely. And you know what? The Raiders are, their defense. We've seen their D-line. I mean, remember the opener against the Ravens in Las Vegas. The Raiders can play, but guess what? they're in a slump right now. They're struggling collectively. So on both sides of the ball, really. So the Browns will have some opportunities, even with Nick Mullens running the show. I don't want to denigrate him too much. With Nick Mullens running the show, they're still going to have opportunities to move the ball.
The D-man, Dennis Manoloff, and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we will take a look at what the Browns' starting offensive unit will look like. We'll also kind of dive into some of the things the Browns may do on offense. Alex Van Pelt calling the plays tonight is Kevin Stefanski. He'll be at home watching like us. Sports4CLE. He'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students, kindergarten through 12th grade, can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Browns getting ready in a little over 45 minutes to kick things off with the Las Vegas Raiders over at First Energy Stadium. D-man Dennis Manoloff and I will take you right up to that 5 o'clock hour when the Browns will kick things off. So, D-man, when we look at this offense, our tackles, Taylor and Hance, the guards, Bitonio and Teller, the center is Treader. Tight ends, you do have Njoku and Bryan available. Wide receivers, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Anthony Schwartz is active and available. Rashard Higgins. The running backs, you got Chubb and Dearness Johnson. Quarterback, Nick Mullens. You also have Kyle Lauletta backing him up. There is some talk that the Browns may flip Joel Bitonio from left guard out to left tackle. I don't know how I feel about that. What are your thoughts about? I think you leave the center, the interior of that line the way it is, because if you start getting pressure up the middle on your quarterback, that's a whole different animal than the pressure from the ends.
I'm with you, Dave, and I think they'll start with Bitonio where he is most used to playing, where he's so comfortable and so good, left guard, and then maybe see what happens from there. But yeah, I would hope they don't have to do that. When you read that list, Dave, that's not bad, all things considered. For a team that was decimated by health and safety protocols and has had injuries as well. You run down that list, and it's got players. And I think of a guy like Rashard Higgins. I mean, here's a chance for Hollywood Higgins to reemerge, to have a great game. I mean, it depends on the line protecting Mullens, and it ultimately depends on Mullens delivering. But a guy like Hollywood Higgins is a talented player, or at least he was. Why can't he have a good game? And I was looking through the Nick Mullens career starts, and he's thrown for more than 300 yards on a bunch of occasions. And by the way, I shortchanged him a lot on that first start you were talking about with the Raiders. I had misread his total QBR. It was over 70. So he was great that night, and the Niners rolled. But Mullens is capable of throwing for a lot of yards if necessary, but hopefully it's not necessary.
Yeah. The other thing is you have Mike Prefer as the head coach. You have Alex Van Pelt calling plays. The limited sample size from Alex Van Pelt calling plays, it's been pretty good.
The Heinz Field formula, Dave, when they took their act to the pitch puke and the wild card game and punked the Steelers, Van Pelt and Prefer Van Pelt were the two-headed monster while Stefanski stayed home because of COVID. Listen, no matter what happens tonight, I'm not going to draw any conclusions about Alex Van Pelt. And I mean, if he has a great play calling day and Mullens lights it up and the Browns roll, I'm not going to say, oh, you know what? I knew that Van Pelt should have been calling the plays instead of Stefanski. Likewise, or on the flip side of it, if it's a bad game and Mullens stinks and it looks like the play calling was stuck in the mud, I'm not going to sit here and say Alex Van Pelt can't call plays. So that's why I kind of think that Alex Van Pelt can come into it a little bit loose. He doesn't have to feel a ton of pressure as a play caller because, he knows that the odds are against him starting at the quarterback position. So let's see what you can do.
Yeah, the other thing I would think is this is a game where you utilize a fullback more, just because you're going to have some of those challenges on the offensive line, and I think with that interior of the line with Teller, Bitonio, Treader as the center, if you utilize a fullback, I think you can kind of beat up the Raiders up front a little bit.
That's true, and we know, by the way, that Kevin Stefanski is part of this game plan. Of course, I mean he's helping a lot right up until kickoff. You would think. Bill Callahan, of course, in it as well. I would like to see Alex Van Pelt do the dink and dunk, and Derek Carr has been known. One of his nicknames, Dink and Dunk Derek. I mean, he's been known for the short stuff and the dump offs to the backs and the quick stuff. I'd like to see that from the Browns. As I said, first and foremost, to neutralize the Raiders' pass rush, which can be problematic. And, you've got two linemen out for the Browns, starting linemen. But also because I think that's a way that you can gain yards and control the clock. And you're also going up against a linebacking core for the Raiders that's down, as we mentioned. And obviously the cornerback position is not great for the Raiders either. So I'd like to see Alex Van Pelt do a lot of the short stuff to see if he can control the ball, control the clock, and keep Derek Carr on the sideline, because Derek Carr is an incredibly capable quarterback. He has shown that throughout his career. He's shown it this year. The offense is in a rut right now. A lot of it because of personnel losses, but Derek Carr is a terrific player, and he can put up numbers, especially if the conditions are relatively benign, which it appears they're going to be. So I would prefer Derek Carr stay on the sidelines.
Yeah, I'm with you. The other thing I would say is I'd like to see a little bit more of the screen game, be it, and it fits into what you're saying with the dink and dunk. But that's a way if the ends are the ones that you have to worry about, Ngakoue and Crosby, and that's look at what opponents do to Myles Garrett. Turn that around and flip that around and do that to the guys for the Raiders that want to get after Nick Mullens and the Browns quarterback.
That's true, and we also have other recipes for the Browns to win tonight. One is the defense needs to play really well, despite its personnel shortages. But also the special teams, Dave. Every time you have me on this show, I'm like, when are the Browns special teams going to be special? Well, here's a perfect opportunity for the special teams to come up big and help this team win a game.
I agree wholeheartedly, and we will get into that. So we're going to step aside, take a quick timeout. The D-Man and I will be back. We'll flip sides of the ball. We'll talk defense, take a look at who the Browns have available on the defensive side of the ball, and kind of what we think they have to do defensively to come away with a much-needed win against the Raiders. Sports4CLE, we'll be right back talking Browns and Raiders about 40 minutes till kickoff here on Sports4CLE.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. Browns getting ready to kick it off against the Las Vegas Raiders over at First Energy Stadium. And some good news for the Browns. They have five Pro Bowlers. This just announced. So Joel Bitonio and Myles Garrett are starters for the Pro Bowl. So the guard and the defensive end starters for the Pro Bowl. And now Nick Chubb, Wyatt Teller, and Denzel Ward are reserved. So 5 Pro Bowlers for the Browns, 3 on offense, 2 on defense. So good names and good things for the Browns is 5 Pro Bowlers. All right. So D-Man, some of the Browns being rewarded for outstanding years. Let's take a look at this depth chart on defense. And again, it's not as bad as it could be. The defensive ends, Myles Garrett and Takk McKinley. The tackles, Malik Jackson, Elliott, Togiai. Linebackers, Walker, Koromoa, and Smith and Takitaki. The cornerbacks, you got Ward and Greedy Williams, MJ Stewart. The safeties, John Johnson III, LeCount, and Moffitt. So, again, given how ravaged they've been from COVID, there's some players in there that can make plays.
Yeah, what we said earlier to show, definitely holds true right now, and that is, if you would have told me that this was going to be the Browns roster, the state of the Browns roster right now on Friday afternoon, I would have said, I'll sign up for it. Honestly, because if you're going to have a game postponed because your roster was ravaged by COVID and illness, I'm not saying this is best case in any way, but it could be a lot worse. You're right. I mean, there are decent players on offense and defense, decent to good players, some Pro Bowlers available to the Browns. And I'm not saying there's no excuses, but of course we know the Browns won't use it as an excuse if they lose. But I think the Browns, all things considered, given that the game was postponed, can't complain too much about who they have, especially, as we said, I mean, the Raiders have lost a couple of key guys since Saturday. So they were already upset that the game was postponed. Now they lose a couple key pieces on top of it. So they'll be hopping mad when they start the game.
How big of a deal is it, do you think, that the Browns get John Johnson back? And that one came today.
Yeah, I mean, John Johnson is a terrific player. I don't know that he's been as good as we thought he was going to be when the Browns signed him to the big money from, coming over from L.A., from the Rams. But he has been, he's got a resume. He's really a quality player when he's on. And so, yes, John Johnson, especially the familiarity that he has, you would think, with Derek Carr. So that's definitely a huge piece for the Browns D.
Yeah, and again, I think he's kind of adjusting to what the Browns want him to do. They're asking him to do some things that he wasn't asked to do with the Rams. All right, when you look at this, and we've touched on this, defense has to play well. I believe, and you can disagree with me, I think they have to hold the Raiders to 20 points or less in order to have a legitimate shot at winning this.
Yeah, that sounds like a good number, because if you get too much higher than that as your threshold, then you're asking Nick Mullens to do too much. And you're not counting on, for example, the special teams to dial up a touchdown out of thin air on a return or a block punt or a block kick or something like that. So I think 20 is about right. That makes sense. You would think the Browns can get there because the Raiders are not a juggernaut. They are not playing well. Their last game they got destroyed by the Chiefs, but a lot of people are getting destroyed by the Chiefs these days. Even before that, though, they hadn't been playing particularly well. So it's not like you can't move the ball and you can't score against this team. And you're at home. You're not in their place with their crowd causing issues. So I think 20 is a good number. And the defense, what's fascinating to me, Dave, among many things on the defensive side, how is Joe Woods going to play it? Because you would like Derek Carr to be under pressure, which means you'd like him to face some blitz pressure. But that's not Joe Woods' MO. And he does have Takk McKinley and Myles Garrett as his bookends. I'm thinking he's going to stick with the four-man rush as long as he can. And you also know that Derek Carr is down some targets, but he still has quality players such as Renfro. And he's a veteran. He's a cagey veteran, real smart guy. So what kind of blitz packages are going to be trotted out by Joe Woods?
Yeah. And again, they had to kind of come up with that before they knew that you would have John Johnson there on that back half as kind of the security blanket. All right, you mentioned Renfro. So there's no Darren Waller. That's a huge loss for the Raiders. Tight end is really good. Do you, if you're Joe Woods, let's think this through. Do you tell Denzel Ward, you go wherever Hunter Renfro is, and let's try to lock on Hunter Renfro? He's had 30 catches for the Raiders the last 3 games.
I mean, that's a good idea. That really is, Dave. He, to me, is their best receiver, right? I mean, I can't think of another one who's more talented than Renfro or more productive than Renfro now that Waller's out, now that Ruggs is out. And they're missing another receiver. I can't recall off the top of my head, but yeah, I would definitely consider that. Say, hey, Denzel, you're going to take away this guy. You're going to take away the security blanket for Derek Carr, and then we'll let him try to beat us with some other guys.
Yeah, they have Zay Jones and Deshaun Jackson are their other 2 receivers.
D-Jax. I forgot about D-Jax.
Foster Moreau is the tight end, but again, you got Josh Jacobs. There's not a lot of star power, but again, as you mentioned, Derek Carr, second in the NFL to Tom Brady throwing the football as far as yards gained this year. So that's a guy that you want to try to pressure.
Yeah, that's true, Dave. And what's interesting about this particular matchup is that, we remember the last time that these two teams played. They played in Cleveland, and what was the final? 16-6. The Raiders won. Now, it was one of those terrible weather games, but what stood out to me in that game was how the Raiders physically manhandled the Browns on both lines, okay? We can't forget that the Raiders are a physical team. They can be. Even when they're struggling, they can be a very physical team. And they took it to the Browns and punched them in the mouth repeatedly on the lakefront last year. So, they don't – I don't think they're all that nervous about this matchup. They think they should win it, especially with Mullens as a starting quarterback. So the Browns have to play well, and they have to be physical.
The D-Man, Dennis Manoloff, and I are step aside, take a quick time out. On the other side of the break, Ryan Clark and Dan Orlovsky from ESPN's First Take they talk about what a win might mean for Nick Mullens. We will also dive into the special teams. Browns need a little bit more from those special teams if they're going to beat the Raiders. Sports4CLE will be right back. Stay with us.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
Thanks for buying a fishing license. I want you to picture all the great things this simple purchase does. Like building public boat ramps, keeping local waters clean, and maintaining a healthy fish population.
What's Mom doing?
When you buy a fishing license, you do a lot. Every dollar protects and maintains your local waterways for future generations to enjoy. Visit takemefishing.org.
About a half hour away from kickoff, Browns and the Las Vegas Raiders over at First Energy Stadium. Scott Petrak, Browns beat reporter from the Elyria Chronicle-Telegram, tweeting this out. Joel Bitonio is in fact warming up at left tackle, Michael Dunn at left guard. That would mean Blake Hance would be over at right tackle. So the D-man, Dennis Manoloff, there you have it. It appears like they may be going with Bitonio at left tackle, and again, it kind of is because of the defense that you're facing with the ends for the Raiders that can get after the quarterback.
Yeah, so much for waiting for the start of the game. I was wrong there. Corrected by Scott Petrak, who's there at the field at First Energy. They're not messing around, and they know the edge rushers for the Raiders are no joke. And the Raiders' D-line in general can put a lot of pressure on a quarterback. So, there you go. I mean, you're putting a terrific player out there at left tackle and see what he can do.
Yep, and he has played some left tackle earlier in his career. All right, so Ryan Clark and Dan Orlovsky from ESPN's First Take on what a win might mean long-term for the Browns with Nick Mullens at quarterback.
The crazy thing is Nick Mullens has been in this position before and played well for the San Francisco 49ers. Yep. It wasn't necessarily always win, but we've watched him be a very competent NFL quarterback, and you're playing with the team that understands how to run block, understands how to run the football. And as you said, it's against the Las Vegas Raiders, who aren't great defensively. And so if you're Baker Mayfield in a year that's been extremely uneven by your play, by some of your actions and reactions off the field, you needed this game. And I think that's why he was fighting so hard to get back.
And I think the reality is this. I would not be shocked if I woke up tomorrow morning or, go to bed tonight and the Browns win, because I think the Browns are a better team.
They were favored by 3 last time I checked.
And so
that might have changed now.
Yeah, and imagine now if you're Baker Mayfield who's trying to prove your worth to a football team, and I know there's been people on television who say he's replaceable, and I've disagreed with that. It would be hard for me to disagree with, because then you've got Case
Keenum beats what, the Bears?
The Broncos.
The Broncos. Case Keenum beat the Broncos.
A lot of depth at the quarterback position.
It'd be hard.
It's paid off for them. And
it'd be hard for you as a player and your reps to go to an organization and say, this is your guy, when they could go, we got 2 guys who have done this, led us to a 2-0 victory.
Yeah,
you know what they'll say then? This is our guy for this price.
Right.
And D-Man, I've thought that pretty much all along. Baker Mayfield isn't going to be a $40 million a year guy. There is a spot in there that makes sense. I think the Browns feel they can win with him as a quarterback and win big with him. But I don't think there is a break-the-bank kind of contract on the horizon.
Yeah, Dave, I totally agree with you. He's not a $40 million quarterback. The question is going to be, what million-dollar quarterback is he when he does eventually sign his next contract? And, you don't want to necessarily believe that a lot is riding on this in terms of Baker's future, because if Mullens looks good and you couple that with the fact that Keenum had won against Denver, you say, all right, well, how valuable is the Bake Show to begin with? But when you don't have that contract extension signed, everything is on the table. You know what? And clearly Baker Mayfield has wanted to play through a lot of pain. He doesn't feel like and of course he wanted to be activated for this game too off of the illness list. He doesn't feel like he can just rest the rest of the way. You know what I mean? He doesn't think, well, I made my case. I've done the best I can. I'm banged up. I'm going to get healthy the rest of the year, and my bank will be there at the end. I think part of it, he will never admit this publicly, nor should he, because all he's going to say is, I want to win. I'm a competitor. I just want to play. I don't care about the money. But in the back of the mind, with all of that money at stake, he's saying, I've got to play, and I have to put more evidence on tape, if you will, that I'm worthy of what I'm going to be asking for. And that's why it can be a sticky situation if, something like Nick Mullens comes out and plays well. But Baker's rooting for Mullens because he wants the Browns to win, because he wants the Browns in first place at the end of the night, so that perhaps when he comes back, he can put together a 3-game run by himself that carries the Browns into the playoffs.
Yep, only good things happen when the Browns win, especially if they get into the playoffs and win there. I would agree, but it will be interesting to kind of see how that plays out. So let's take a look. Nick Chubb's Instagram posted this, and certainly looks ready to go, D-Man. We have a question, Jeremy, from the chat. We'll ask, how many rushing yards you think that Nick Chubb, Batman there, gets in this one against the Las Vegas Raiders? Let you go first with that.
You know what? I'm going to say 100, and it's going to depend, though, on how much pressure Mullens is able to take off of the situation. Because, well, what did we see in Baltimore a couple of weeks ago? They said, well, you know what? We're going to commit to Baker Mayfield trying to beat us deep. We're going to stack the box, the vaunted 8-man box of the Ravens that the Browns couldn't solve. And as good as Chubb is, he was unable to do anything on the ground, nor was Nick Chubb, nor was Kareem Hunt. So are the Browns going to be able to, with Nick Mullens, knowing the Raiders are going to dare Mullens to beat them, and they're going to set all kinds of traps for him to try to pick him off and strip sack him and all that other stuff, is Mullens going to be able to take enough pressure off of that pass rush and off of the eager linebackers to then open up the running game? But if that happens, I see at least 100 yards for Nick Chubb.
Yeah, I think he's going to get about 120 in a touchdown or two. I think he gets at least one 50-ish, 45 to 50-yard run. I don't think the Raiders' run defense is anywhere near the Ravens. I think the Ravens' run defense is pretty good. So I'm with you. I will go. I'll go a little bit over 100, like 120. All right, let's take a look at this Emily Mayfield tweet, and this was from yesterday, early today. Yesterday, super frustrating. Baker Field's 110%, did everything he could to get the negative test. Can only control what was within our control. We'll be cheering loud from the couch, and they want to get the number one spot in the AFC North. Fully believe that as well. We have another question from the chat, D-Man. Mike from the chat wants to know what you're concerned about, offense or defense? Which concerns you more?
What concerns me more, this is going to sound strange, Dave. What worries me more going into tonight's game is how the defense is going to react to Derek Carr. Because I know that Carr's numbers haven't been what they should be, but, again, personnel losses, guys like Waller out, of course, Ruggs, and various other players. You can't expect Carr to make blood out of a stone. The problem is Carr has the capability of slinging it around and looking great. And I think that I'm more nervous about the Browns' defense against Derek Carr than I am by their controlled passing game and running attack against the Raiders' D.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I'm concerned that that they're able to throw the ball enough so that Nick Chubb can do what he wants to do and what they want to do running the football. All right, we've mentioned special teams, and let me throw this out at you. Chase McLaughlin hadn't been great. 2 of 5, and has missed an extra point in his last 3. That's his last 3 games. 2 of 5 on field goals, has missed an extra point. All of the COVID guys means that your special teams are essentially some of the guys that are elevated from the practice squad. I am really, and you can add as many reallys as you want, concerned about the Browns special teams play. About the most confidence I have is Dustin Colquitt, the guy they signed off of the streets last week because he kicked really well.
I'm not worried about Colquitt. I'm not. But here's what the Browns have to do on special teams. First and foremost, they have to limit what the Raiders, returners do. That's critical. Then, of course, you can't turn the ball over when you're returning it. It would be nice to get, again, a Christmas present of mega size would be a touchdown out of special teams. I'm not counting on it because I've watched this special teams too much. But, yeah, they've got to figure out a way to play better, and they've got to do a really good job to help this team because you've got to – how many games, Dave, have the Browns this season played well in all 3 phases? I can't think of one game where all 3, the offense, defense, and special teams, were clicking. And this is one of those times where you really would like to see, knowing that the offense has a ceiling, has a limited ceiling, you've got to get a good offense, a good defense, and somehow, some way, a good special teams performance.
Yeah, I agree. The only one that you might say all 3 played well in is the Bengals game. Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
That's good.
Maybe. I can't say that definitively. All right, the D-Man and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we will look at just how important this game is. We'll take a look at the AFC North Standings, how the AFC lays out. We're about 20 minutes away from kickoff. Browns and the Las Vegas Raiders over at First Energy Stadium. Sports4CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery, partners in education, where stars shine. Browns about 15 minutes away from kickoff against Las Vegas Raiders, a game very important to their playoff hopes. Let's take a look at the AFC North standings as they stand now. Bengals and Ravens both 8-6, Browns 7-6, Steelers 7-6-1. It is that tight. If the Browns are able to win, you notice the conference breakdown as well as the divisional breakdown. Browns able to win this one. They've beaten the Bengals head-to-head, so they actually would be, and they've split with the Ravens. They would actually be in first place in the AFC North. D-Man, you alluded to it earlier. Harbaugh goes for twice and loses by a point in each of those games. So it's kind of put the division, as well as, the Ravens' playoff hopes, kind of tumbling everywhere.
Yeah, right now the Raiders, like the Browns, are out of the money in the AFC. And, the rest of the AFC North has John Harbaugh to thank for pulling them into the race. And it is incredible. The Browns win. It's a three-way tie record-wise at 8-6, but the Browns have the tiebreaker because of the better overall record against the other teams in that group. The Browns are 2-1 against the other two teams. The Bengals are 1-1, and the Ravens are 1-2. And if the Browns lose, they're in last place. So, how crazy is it that, you can have a first place stakes and a last place stakes with a win and a loss. And regarding Harbaugh, we've talked about it on this show. It's almost like you're not allowed to criticize analytics. If you do, or analytics-driven decisions. If you do, you're an idiot, you're a Neanderthal, you're prehistoric with your NFL thinking. But you know what? All I'm doing is going by the evidence, Dave. That's it. I don't care what your computer programs show. I don't care what data you can throw in front of me and try to claim that every single time that John Harbaugh goes for two, he's making the right decision. What I do to counter that is I point to what actually happened the last three games. At one point, the Ravens were 8-3. They're now 8-6. They've lost 3 in a row by a grand total of 4 points, okay, including 24-22 in Cleveland. In all 3 of those games, the Ravens went for 2 in the fourth quarter, and it cost them dearly. The one with the Browns was inside of 9 minutes left. And it could have been a one-possession game. They missed, and then it was a two-possession game. They were chasing possessions the rest of the game. And the other 2 games, the Steelers and the Packers that were on either side of the Cleveland game, Harbaugh goes for 2 with less than a minute to go. And in the Steelers' case, it was less than 20 seconds left. And it was a win-or-lose proposition. You don't get it, you lose. You get it, you at least can extend the game to probably overtime. So I don't care what those data-driven, computer-generated flow charts tell me. All I know is the Ravens have lost 3 in a row. They're 8-6, and they pulled the other 3 teams into the division race because of it.
We'll just say thank you and kind of move on from there. All right.
Send a few Christmas gifts over to the Ravens headquarters.
So Jesse from the chat wants to know what Browns receiver would be a good target tonight. I have a thought. Let's see what yours is first.
I mean, I've always been a Hollywood Higgins guy, and I know that he's Baker Mayfield, supposedly was Baker Mayfield's security blanket. And I know Donovan Peoples-Jones is emerging. He's doing a nice job, and a lot of people like DPJ. Okay, great. I hope he has a good game. But I would like to see Hollywood Higgins flash and show us again why they call him Wood. You know what I mean? So I'm going to say I need Hollywood Higgins to have a good game tonight.
I'm going to go. I think Njoku is a guy that they have trouble with tight ends. Njoku, if you use him correctly, is a mismatch. He's a problem. You put a safety on him, he's too big. You put a linebacker on him, he's too fast. He's got to catch the ball. He's had too many drops. But I think that is the target, and that might be the matchup. All right, let's look at the AFC playoff picture. And the Browns and Ravens, it's currently 8-9. Although if the Browns are able to win, look at the one that is the last one. That would be the conference record. This is why the Browns cannot lose this game. Currently 4-5 in the AFC. This is an AFC matchup. So they need to get back to that 5-5 record. That would knock them even with the Ravens and the Bills as well. They cannot afford to lose to another AFC opponent. Can't. And you see currently, that would move them up into a seventh-place tie with the Bills and the Ravens.
Yeah, and Dave, the AFC North is the path to me. I looked at the remaining schedules of the Chargers and the Bills and the what was the other team that's 8-6 sitting in a wild card spot?
Yeah.
Why am I blanking?
Chargers. Yeah.
Chargers, Bills, and the other team that was 8-6. But they're favorable schedules, and the Colts. Yeah, and the Colts are red hot. If I were the Browns, I would laser focus on the AFC North because I think it's going to be very difficult to surmount the Bills, the Chargers, and the Colts as the three AFC wildcard teams.
Yeah, that's fair enough. All right, the D-Man, Dennis Manoloff, and I are going to step aside, take a quick timeout. On the other side of the break, we will dive in a little deeper to tonight's matchup with the Raiders. Kickoff now about 10 minutes away over at First Energy Stadium, Sports4CLE, as we get ready to look a little closer at Browns and Raiders. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Back to new friends, new classroom, and learning new things. Back to wearing shoes, man, like real shoes. Back to rushing to class. Back to having questions. Lots of questions. Back to vending machine dinners. Back to too much caffeine, too late at night, but feeling like it was a night well spent. Back to pursuing your dreams and taking control of your future. Come back to go forward. Try C, where futures begin.
Browns and Raiders will kick it off in a few minutes over at First Energy Stadium. D-Man, who concerns you on the Raiders? We've talked a little bit about Derek Carr, and that would be number one on my list. He could get hot, and that would be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, he has to be at the head of the list of concerns, even with his weapons being limited, or at least based on what he had coming into the season, because you don't want to necessarily downgrade. Anybody in the NFL is good, relatively speaking, but relative to the general population. But yeah, Derek Carr, he's an accomplished player. He is capable of putting up phone numbers. I looked up his passing total from the 16-6 game, 16-6, 111 yards, because they just leaned on Josh Jacobs and their physicality up front, and the weather was so bad. I mean, neither he nor Baker threw for more than I think 100. I think Baker was under 130. But Derek Carr, with these conditions, doesn't seem like it's going to be all that bad. Maybe the wind's going to whip up, but I doubt it. So Carr will be able to do what he does, and that line is tough. So Derek Carr has to be at the top of the list of concerns for the Browns.
All right, let's flip it. Who do you think needs to step up for the Browns? Can go offense, can go defense, either way. If the Browns are going to come away with a much-needed win, who's going to step up?
Well, you mentioned Hollywood on the offensive side. Defensively, I'm thinking about a guy like Takk McKinley. I mean, you need to take some of the pressure off Miles. Miles is going to be attracting a lot of attention, as he always does, from the opposing line. So it's incumbent upon McKinley as, the guy stepping in for Jadeveon Clowney to get home. And is it going to be easy? No, because Carr, as we said, is very sharp, and he'll get rid of the ball if he has to quickly. So it's going to be tough, but at the very least, move him off his spot. Don't let him get comfortable. Don't let him set up for a deep ball. And so I look at McKinley, and also, in addition, on the defensive side, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He's been really good in his rookie year out of Notre Dame. I loved him coming out of Notre Dame. I've loved what I've seen from him this year. But, this is another opportunity and another situation where the Browns need the Joker to play well. So I'm looking at McKinley and Owusu-Koramoah on the defensive side and Hollywood Higgins on the offensive side.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Owusu-Koramoah comes up with a big play or two, and that just a gut feeling that I have as well. When you look at this, keys to this game, what do you think some of the keys are?
Well, for the Browns offense, they can't turn it over. I mean, standard stuff when you talk about any NFL game. Don't turn it over if you're the offense. And especially with a guy like Nick Mullens. If Mullens comes out and throws a pick early, you have to believe that it's going to adversely affect the rest of the game. Recognizing that already going in, he's probably got a very confined play sheet. They're not going to ask him to do a lot. Well, if he comes in with a limited amount of plays and a limited amount that he's asked to do and throws a pick right away or fumbles the ball, then you're like, oh no, what do? How do you trust this guy? So Mullens in particular has to stay turnover free. As far as I'd like to see Nick Chubb catch some more balls out of the backfield. I remember in the Ravens game, he caught a couple, and when inexplicably Kareem Hunt caught 0, the game in Baltimore when they lost. I know it's not Chubb's nature. It's not his natural thing to catch passes, but I want to get him in space. I want to get Nick Chubb in space. So on the offensive side, no turnovers, create opportunities for Chubb, get the ball out of Mullens' hands in a hurry. On the defensive side, pick your spots to blitz, but don't let Derek Carr sit back and pick you apart. They might have to ramp up the blitz pressure earlier than they want if Derek Carr's sitting back there having all the time he needs and slicing and dicing the Browns down the field.
Yeah, and to your point, I think the Browns have to push or win the turnover battle. And when you look at the giveaway takeaway, Raiders are currently -4, Browns are +2. So a team that has turned the ball over more than they have turned it over, you darn well better beat them in the giveaway takeaway one. When you look at this, gut feeling, do you think the Browns get a much-needed win and move to first place? Or are you saying pump the brakes, too much to overcome?
As much as I said early in the show, Dave, that all things considered, this roster isn't as decimated as I thought. You're asking me to pick Nick Mullens over Derek Carr, and I just can't do that. Especially when I wish the teams hadn't played last year. And I know a lot of different faces on both sides. But the physicality that the Raiders exhibited last year, I'm not so sure that's gone away even as they've struggled. So I don't know that the Browns can match them in the trenches. And I know they can't match the quarterback position. So I'm going to go with the Raiders by the slimmest of margins, as painful as it is for me to say.
Yeah, I think the Browns will end up finding a way to do it. It's going to be 21-20, 21-17.
Hey, Dave, by hook or by crook, like you said, you got to just figure out a way to win. Yep. No style points needed.
Nope. Just find a way to get to 8-6 and then worry about what lies ahead after that. D-Man, as always, man, appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dave.
All right. The D-Man, Dennis Manoloff, make sure you listen to him. WTAM News Radio 1100. That'll do it for this edition of Sports4CLE. We will be back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock to kind of dissect the Browns-Raiders game. Mary Kay Cabot, Browns beat reporter from Plain Dealer and cleveland.com, the scheduled guest. That's tomorrow at 4. Have a great night, everybody. We will see you tomorrow.